Hello everyone, my name is Sofia Parreira and I am going to present the origin of the class of Egyptian interpreters as seen by Herodotus with my classmates Chiara Formolo and Émilie Hamel. So, first and foremost, Herodotus was born in Halicarnassus on the southwest of Asia Minor in the beginning of the 5th century BC. We don't know much about his life except that he spent much of it traveling to gather material for his writings, and we also know that he eventually settled down in Turi in southern Italy, where he wrote his greatest work. And Herodotus ended up passing in 424 BC. His most famous work is Histories, a detailed account of the Greco-Persian Wars, and throughout time, Herodotus has been referred to as the father of history by some, as well as the father of lies by others. So, Herodotus' most famous work is Histories, that centers around the struggle between the Greeks and the barbarians, which he ultimately brings down to the Battle of Mycale in 479 BC, sorry. And so this work, as we have it now, is divided into 9 different books, each named after the 9 muses. But this division is probably due to the Alexandrine grammarians. So Herodotus gathered most of his intel for his work through oral sources, of course. So he traveled through Asia Minor, down into Egypt, around the Black Sea, and into various parts of Greece, and then proceeded into neighboring countries. So in the books, the chronological narrative halts from time to time, giving opportunity for Herodotus to describe the country, its people, their costumes, as well as previous history of each country. And so for our work, we mainly focus on book 2, named Euterpe, named after the muse of lyrical poetry. So the main key points of the book in regard to our work are as follows. First and foremost, the kings of Egypt. So the book delves into the history of Egypt's kings, beginning with the first known king, Min, and the establishment of Egypt as a unified kingdom. Herodotus recounts the reigns of various rulers, including the legendary figure of Psammetichus. And the second point is Egyptian society and its practices. So the text includes details about the Egyptian customs, including their social structure, dietary habits, and attire. Herodotus contrasts the Egyptians with other peoples, often emphasizing their distinctiveness. And finally, the third point is the Egyptian experiment conducted by King Psammetichus. So this is one of the most famous episodes in this book. It is when King Psammetichus wants to discover where human speech originated. So he isolated 2 infants with a shepherd, and he made sure that they never heard any type of human language. And the infants eventually started speaking, and they spoke Phrygian, which led the Egyptians to believe that the Phrygians were the oldest people. And finally, the 2 main archaeological sites that seem to support Herodotus' claims are Naucratis, as seen on figure 1. It was an ancient Greek settlement in the Nile River Delta on the western branch of the river. It was a trading station with exclusive trading rights in Egypt, as it was the center of cultural relations between Greece and Egypt in the pre-Hellenistic period. And on the second figure, we can see the other archaeological site called Daphne, which was an ancient fortress town situated near Kantara in northern eastern Egypt. I am now going to give the time to Chiara.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chiara, and I'm gonna mainly talk about the social status of the interpreters during the ancient Egypt, starting with the historical context. So the historical context was highly influenced by the trade, the diplomacy, and the military conquest of the country. And this is because the interpreters had the role to fix and fulfill the linguistic gaps present in this so diversified area, which is the Mediterranean. And all this made very necessary and essential their role. The role also had an increase of influence during two main periods. The late period that goes from 664 to 332 before Christ, and the Ptolemaic one that goes from 332 to 30 before Christ. And the main influences during these two times were the Greek one and the Persian one. But there were, of course, in the Mediterranean area, a lot more of them, mainly minor population around the area of Egypt. Their social status for Egypt was basically a bit ambiguous and also prestigious, but only in some cases, of course. They operated in mainly elite class, so they were often in indirect contact with rulers, administrators, and merchants. But of course, they were needed also in more lower occasion, for example, for interpreting for common people or even the captives, because they needed to understand the rules. Then we have the social hierarchy. Herodotus in the book 2 names 7 categories, which are priests, cowherd, swineherds, shopkeepers, interpreters, and boatmen. So, of course, some are missing, especially the elite ones. But it's very interesting how he specify about the interpreters one. But without placing them in the society. So we don't really know where they stand in the hierarchy, but from other sources, we could assume that they are between the merchants and the seafarers. So the black arrow you see in the picture should indicate their position. The separation between these categories were very blurred, and that's because, as I said before, they could work for different social classes. And a lot of times they also had double identities. This means they used two different names, usually one Egyptian and one Greek, in order to have an easier access to the different cultures and different situations. They also had, of course, to translate different words. I mean, from one language to the other one, but not only. There were also different concepts, and so this work of translation helped the passage of administrative and philosophical ideas from other cultures, such as the Greek one or the Persian, into Egypt culture. And this spread to, of course, many different audiences. And it was a double exchange of ideas. Some of them were also freelancers, but these were not very good seen. They were the least social prestigious ones, and they were often seen as outsiders or opportunistic ones. Because they were operating usually in a very minimal space between the different cultures. There was also a hierarchy between them, between the interpreters. Some of them were in contact with very important people, such as the pharaoh, or working in temples, and of course the religious field was one of the most important for their culture. But some of them were also serving foreign merchants, common soldiers, or common people. Summing up about their role, we could say that is a middle class figure. They were definitely very highly educated. Some of them were also traveling to learn better the language, and all of them were doing a lot of studies usually. And of course, they were essential in many fields. But despite this fact, they were never part of the ruling elite. They did have a very important increase in their importance as figure, and this happened during the foreign rule of the country. Because, of course, in this situation, the communication between the ruler and the local population was extremely difficult, especially at the beginning, but at the same time was extremely essential to start and rule the country under a foreigner. I'm gonna pass now the computer. Émilie.
Hello. So as Chiara, oops.
So, as Chiara said, even though they were not the highest in the hierarchy, interpreters held a noble and important role in society because they were crucial, because they served as the voice and translators of critical messages that could impact all of Egyptian society. Like today, this was a highly significant role due to the sensitivity of the matters between kingdoms, so interpreters had to be careful. They held a diplomatic role. Interpreters were also essential to the trading industry, acting as a bridge between languages borders also. So they were sharing with a lot of other countries, and also because Egypt underwent a lot of changes in rulers. It led to a lot of shifts in the language of the administration and the legal systems in Egypt. So interpreters were once again the key connection between these languages for administrative purposes. So due to the political context, languages, and demographic, as I said, Egypt underwent significant changes, which directly affected the work of interpreters. As we will see, interpreters did not only work between Egyptian and Greek, even if they were the two main languages, but also with a variety of others like Persian. Over time, their role changed considerably, and they also became multilingual, as did the general population of ancient Egypt as well. For example, in the 7th century, many Greeks arrived in Egypt. Greek immigrants arrived in Egypt, which altered the demographic dynamics. So the pharaohs asked or ordered more the interpreters to learn Greek so they could communicate with the new foreigners in their country. So as mentioned earlier, Egyptian changed and several times. At one point, the Persian Empire ruled over Egypt and introduced the Persian language. So interpreters had to learn the Persian language. And also a bit later during history, during the nearly 300 years of Ptolemaic rule, Greek became an important language, as important as ancient Egyptian. So it was a bilingual society. And the roles of interpreters obviously evolved. Before this, they often worked with foreigners outside of Egypt in diplomatic matters. But after, they were tasked more with facilitating communication between the Greek-speaking populations and also the Egyptian-speaking populations. So their role included translating spoken language, mediating between the two different cultural groups, interpreting legal, administrative, and commercial transactions as well. So to conclude the presentation, I'm going to briefly talk about the Rosetta Stone. Many of you may be familiar with it because it's really popular, but I think it's an important part of both ancient Egypt translation history and our more recent history. And even though it wasn't made by interpreters themselves, it wasn't written by interpreters. So for those who don't know, the Rosetta Stone is an object that helped a modern linguist understand and translate Egyptian hieroglyphs. The stone features three translations of the same text. So we have a text in Greek, the other one in ancient Egyptian, and the other one in Demotic as well. Which is Demotic is another script used for the Egyptian language. So in a way, the Rosetta Stone itself can be seen as a vital linguistic tool that helped historians historians from now to decipher the ancient Egyptian language, which, much like the interpreters in ancient Egypt, helped bridge linguistic gaps in their own time. So this is what concludes the presentation. We hope you liked it. Here are our sources for the presentation. And also there is a Google form where you can answer some question that about the presentation. So thank you.